My name's Kane and welcome to episode 2 of the E46 Drift Build. In the last episode we pulled it apart. This episode we're going to be doing some grinding and welding. Before we get started, a few things we just wanted to go over is PPE. This isn't our first time tackling this job, and trust me when I say this. You want to be wearing a hat, this junk will get in your hair, it will take many washes to get out, and it is filth. You want eye protection, a face mask as well, because trust me, these aren't enough. Something to filter the dust. Don't want to breathe it in, you'll be blowing black snot for weeks. Ear protection, either ear muffs or ear plugs. We're going to wear whatever fits under the helmet, so let's do it. Alright, well that's the worst of it done. We got almost all 4 mounts down to mostly metal. We're still going to go around and take off the last of the primer. This is just a quick rush to get the worst of it off. Looking at this wheel arch, you can actually see there's some rust coming out of it, so that's clearly been split for quite some time. But we'll be stitch welding this. I might even add some extra spot welds just so it's got some additional strength. These spot welds along here are actually quite common to pop. That there is actually the very end of the rear axle carrier panel, so looks like none of our spot welds will let go. However, we've got to do some stitch welding back here in addition to the existing factory weld. In addition to that, we'll be stitch welding on the other side of the floor, so I'm going to take all this material off through here. Before I do that, I'm going to get this plug out, which requires me to take a chisel to the deadener material they put on the top. We're still going to take all this end of the wheel arch off, still going to take the trailing arms off. That's pretty much it, just more grinder time, more filth, more fun. Alright, well, that's me dusted off. Tomorrow we're going to be wrapping this up, do the final pass with the grinder with a flat disc just to get it really down to raw metal, so there's none of the galvanic prime still on there. After that, we're going to wipe it down with some thinners, get it really clean, and then we're going to prime it and get started on some welding, starting with that crack. So hopefully tomorrow's productive and a lot cleaner than today, so can't wait. Let's do it. Alright, well today's a new day. We wrapped up the worst of the dirty work yesterday, as you can tell by the floor here. Today we're going to continue on with what we started. We're going to wrap up the boot. Like we said, that involves chiseling off some deadener. We're going to have to take the grinder to the back seat area. And after that we should be ready to start prepping for welding. So that'll be a little bit of cleaning, and I think that's about it. So I'm eager to get into it, so let's keep going. Alright, well that's the end of the chiseling. Pretty stoked that that's the end because I haven't got much left of my fingers, but it is what it is. Now I'm going to grab the grinder, jump back in there and take off what's left. Get it down to bare metal, get the rest of the seam sealer out, get it nice and schmick, and I think we'll just be doing final prep before welding, so we're getting really close to that part, and once we hit that threshold it is smooth sailing from there. So I'm getting very eager for that, so let's keep going, we're nearly there. Alright, well that was a little dirtier than I expected, but it's done now, so hopefully we won't be getting dirty again. The next part of the job is going to be just to do a final pass. Like we said, we're personally going to be using a flap disc just to get it down to bright metal, give it a wipes of some thinners on a rag, get it nice and clean. And then after that we'll be able to show you how to repair a crack as well as some broken spot welds. So let's get to it, and I can't wait to get this car fixed. Alright, well, as you saw, we took off the remainder of the primer, got them down to that very nice bright metal. That's how you know there's no oxides or any of the galvanic primer still embedded into the steel. You've got to get it down to raw metal. After that, we wiped it down with some thinners, as we said. We gave it a quick spray with some galvanic weld-through primer. That way it's going to stay nice and clean under there, and it's also going to be corrosion protected between the two layers of steel. We've then gone ahead and stop drilled this crack. We used a fairly generous 3mm drill bit. I probably could use something much smaller than that. There is a rule of thumb for cracks. However, I can easily weld that shut, so I figured, why not go a little bit bigger? What I'm going to do now is I'm going to use a grinder with a cutting disc and a very steady hand, and I'm actually going to just slightly notch out that crack, get it from two butted faces to more of a V, a gully, so I can fill it with weld. That way I know when I weld this crack shut, it's fully penetrated and it's fairly structural at that point. There's no opportunity for it to continue propagating. And that's it. So I'm about to do that now, so let's see how I go. Alright, well that's it for this episode. We just finished welding that crack shut and ground down the excess weld material, so now you can see it was like it was never there. We didn't tackle the wheel arch because we're going to do a little bit more there than just repair these spot welds. We thought we'd save that for the next video. Speaking of the next video, we're going to be reinforcing this properly, so stay tuned and we'll show you how that goes.